Hey guys, this is Small Town Izzy. Thanks for joining me. Hometown heroes are hard to find, but it looks like we snagged one when Chad Cheatham took the head football coaching job at the high school. We sat down for some conversation and storytelling just the other day, and here's what he had to say. Whew. Well, Coach, thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. It's awesome. It's a pleasure.
All right. Straight up, now that you've settled in, how does it feel to be home?
Oh, how does it feel to be home? You know, I thought about this last night, and I thought about it because I knew you were going to ask this question. And it's great to be home. It's great to be back with my family and my friends and the guys I played ball with, things like that. It's also there's also a lot of pressure that goes with it too, being back in your hometown, because obviously you want to be successful. You want to bring in a new vision, a new philosophy, and things like that, and you want to see success.
Yeah.
And so there is some pressure that goes with that. Being a hometown guy, being away for 27 years or so, but it's been really good. It's been really good. It's been a tough road though in some parts of it.
Yeah, it's always good to be home.
It's always good to be home.
Yeah. You had just been named head football coach of Banks County when a Fannin job came open. Was it a tough decision to apply for this job under those circumstances?
No doubt. I had taken the job right before Christmas at Banks, and we had already started right after Christmas. We were already in the weight room at 6 in the morning, working, trying to do the same things that we're doing here and accomplish the same results. So just out of the blue, I get calls from my parents that this thing popped open late. It was kind of late in the season when this job came open, and immediately it sparked my interest because I had waited for so long to come back.
Yeah.
I knew, been in coaching so long, if you come back to your hometown earlier in your career, say you're 12, 15 years in, and you don't do well, then you might get fired, and then you might have to leave.
Yeah.
But I'm about 5 years away from retirement. So if they fire me now, I'm just staying here. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. So it was a good decision. It was tough. It was tough to leave my guys down there, who I still communicate with all the time. Yeah, as of yesterday, I was talking to them.
Yeah.
They were special to me also.
Yeah. How did it feel when you got the call and found out the Fannin job was yours?
It's kind of surreal, It's I've always dreamed about it and wanted it. I wanted to be back on the field that I played on, and coach the kids and coach in the town that I spent so much time in. And when I got the call from Robert and from Dr. Gwatney, Robert Inslee and Dr. Gwatney, and said, the job is yours. Dr. Ramsey called me first and asked me if I would commit to it, and I said yeah, and then it had to be voted on. So we were all sitting in Jefferson that night, and we were waiting on the board meeting and the vote and everything, and it came through, and they called me and said yes. And then on the flip side of that, I knew then I had to go back to Banks and go to the superintendent and say, look, I've got to make a move, and it's so that was part of it. We were ecstatic. It was awesome. It was a good night.
Yeah. Once you got the Fannin job, what were your biggest challenges beginning the season?
Biggest challenges, I think that changing the culture, changing the mindset of the athletes.
Yeah.
It seemed to be a very normal thing for kids, for our football team to just give a 2 and 8 average effort.
Okay.
In coming from, there wasn't a lot of contact involved, not a lot of physicality in practice, things like that. We had to overcome the fact of really the collision part, of getting used to the contact, the speed of practice, practicing with up tempo as opposed to a slowed down type deal where we're getting constant reps constantly, and it's real physical all the time. And I tell our kids, and we're still, the biggest thing we're preaching this year is because our stuff's installed and we're getting back into it, but we had to teach our kids to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because as playing athletics and basketball or whatever, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world.
No.
And football is not either, because it's contact and it's collision and it's pain. But the thing that we're harping on is you have got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so that not only applies to our football team and athletics, but it applies to life too.
Yeah.
And we try to make those things, those scenarios fit the entire compass of their life. So as when they leave us, they understand that that their marriages and their family life is not always going to be comfortable. So you've got to get uncomfortable, or you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to speak in front of the board. It's not comfortable to go to all these places, these churches, and speak and push your program and things like that. If you know what I mean. But that's something that I've got to do.
Yeah.
And so that's big for us this year, and as we go into the spring and the summer, that one, and then the fact that we tell our kids that your actions speak so loud that I can't hear what you're saying. We're tired of talk.
Yeah.
Anybody can talk.
Mhm.
It's the actions. It's what they do at 6:30 in the morning. That uncomfortableness that tells me how we're going to be come August the 9th when we open up.
Yeah. What kind of things did you do to promote team unity?
Oh gosh, a lot. I think more than team community or team bond. I did a lot of things to create community school bonding.
Yeah.
Whether it be going into the band room and listening and talking to those guys and meeting with other coaches and going to the counselor's office and talking about our kids, what their GPAs are, and can they qualify, NCAA qualify, those type things. Trying to make relationships with every coach because a lot of our kids are playing multiple sports. And I think that's important that the entire community and the entire staff at Fannin High School and everywhere else knows that I'm on their side. It's not just a football thing. It's a community thing. It's something that we can all hang our hat on. And I don't know if that answers the question exactly the way you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got to win the community. You've got to become a friend of the faculty. You've got to do some things that are not comfortable, and so that was one of the biggest things that I did. Changing coaching staffs, that's not always comfortable because you have to let some folks go, and then you've got to add some people and make changes like that, and you hope that they carry the same philosophy that you do, and so you have to coach coaches too.
Yeah.
It's not just coaching players; they have to buy into your philosophy, and then that philosophy they have to show that in the hallways. And they also have to win the faculty and the administration and things like that.
Yeah. So I heard there was a team picnic at Horseshoe Bend before the season.
Sure.
I heard there was an incident in the river that day. Can you
There
tell
was.
us a little about that?
Well, it's funny. We have a team camp out. We're going to have it again, same place, and it's a time for our guys to come together, and we go camp out all night in tents and kind of get away from everybody. And then we have a big fire at night, and all the kids speak, the seniors speak, the young guys speak, and we kind of lay out what we want, set our goals. It's kind of a brotherhood type thing. Nobody else is there but us, and so we really get to be intimate with each other and figure out everything. But so we get down there, and I drive my Jeep because I've got a lot of stuff in it, and for the camp out, and bring the kids in the bus, and I hadn't been there maybe 30 minutes, I don't know, and I get a call from Painter saying, hey, there's somebody stuck in the river down close to the bridge, and they're hung in a kayak. We just got the call in, and I thought of you. You were as close as anybody else to get there as quick as you can. So I was up by the bridge going out of the park, and I yelled at Coach Turner to grab the Jeep and come on. So he jumps in the Jeep. He didn't know what we were doing. And so we jumped in the Jeep and turned left, and as I'm turning left, I told Adam, I said, there's somebody stuck in the river. They're hung up. It seems to be an elderly couple or older couple. So I just start taking my wallet out, my phone, and all this kind of stuff. And I get to where there's some people standing there, and I look down, and there's two ladies who flipped a kayak, and the kayak's gone, but they're hung in the tree, and the water's running, and pushing them against the tree. Really, really a tough situation. I mean, just instinct. I just off the bank and went right in, and the older lady who was in her 70s was out at the end of the tree, and she was really getting banged up pretty good as the water was pushing, and I was able to get her and turn my body where she was facing me, so the tree was to my back. I was able to get the people up top to kind of form a human chain coming down the bank and lock hands and things like that. And I slowly passed her to the people who were next to the river, and they were able to pull her up. And then I had to get the daughter who was in the same situation. They'd been in there about 30 or 40 minutes. The water was cold, and they were banged up pretty good. But you know, something that you just do. It ends up working out in the end. You don't think about it. You just do it. Anybody would do it. It wasn't anything. I mean, if you saw it, you'd go right into. I mean, that's just how you do things.
So basically, you saved their lives.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I would say that I was fortunate to be in that situation, and I was able to be there and be a part of it. And
well, I say you did.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't claim that, but it was and I have kept in contact with the daughter.
Yeah.
And she found me on Facebook, and she sends me messages and things like that. So it's a good deal.
Looking back, how did the season unfold for you? What were the biggest positives, and what would you have done differently?
Oh gosh, would have done a lot differently. The positive things, obviously, we're making the playoffs for the first time in AAA. The downside of that was going to have to play Calhoun in the first round. But that's good for our kids and our community to really see big-time football and what it takes to get to that level and be able to compete, you know, in week 14, 15, which is the state championship and the semifinals. So that was very positive for us. Winning 4 games was good. It's never great. I felt like we should have won 2 more games. I felt like the Chesapeake game got away from us. We lost Mason Rhodes in the Lafayette game, which is a game we should have won. And then we had to move a lot of people around and people playing in different positions. We were up 28-7 with about a minute left in the half at the Chesapeake game, and they ended up scoring. Mason wasn't at linebacker, and we felt like, I mean, that's a guy that gives you 9 to 12 tackles a game. The quarterback took over, ended up going late in the quarter, had a 4th down that we didn't get. Probably cost us, you know. And the thing was, I didn't want that Christian Charles, that quarterback, to get the ball back in his hands. Had to make a tough decision right there to go for it, so that we didn't give it back to him, because we knew he was going to score because we couldn't stop him. And made a wrong call. It was a terrible call on my part as far as the play call. So that's a regret that I have. I wish I could go back and take those 2 games, because I really feel like we could have won 6 games. And then the Union County game, there was a lot of distraction in the community, and during the Union County game we had several things going on, several players that were suspended, and I just felt like we didn't play real well right there. Our minds weren't where they needed to be. That was something that I could change. If I could go back, I could change. Felt like we played well against GAC late in the year. Obviously, the Lumpkin game was a big win for us to get in the playoffs. But you go back and you relive everything as a head coach. Every game, every second, you go back and you watch film, and you think to yourself, man, I made some stupid decisions, and I've got to do a better job of being more involved in what's going on. So
yeah. How do you think football prepares young men for life?
Well, I think we already talked about that a little bit. You know, that it's not comfortable, and neither is life. And so we try to tie those things to life. When you have to get up at 5:45 in the morning, and you have to be at workouts at 6:30, and then you work out and you sweat, and it's tough workouts, and then you have to get to school and be to school on time. You know, that puts some life pressures on them. Whereas if they were working a job and they're having to get up at 5:45 and they have to be on the job site at 6:30, and then they have to work their day, and then they get home, and you get home and it doesn't stop. You know, as a coach, for me, I mean, I work dark. I leave at dark, and most nights I get home at dark. But I've got a family sitting there also, and so I don't just come in and pile up and lay down and say, okay, my day's over. I try to spend the time with my family and my wife and my kids and try to give them what they need so it extends. So the more pressure that you can put on them, the more uncomfortable you can make them, helps them later in life when things do get tough.
Yeah.
You know, in their marriages or their families, or maybe somebody gets sick or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you put those same pressures on them in practice. You make it a pressure situation, and you make them react in those pressure situations. And when it happens in life, they react to it, and they react to it in a positive way. They don't give up.
Yeah. You've played football and you've coached football. Which do you enjoy more?
I would give anything I have to go back and play one more game.
Really?
Yeah, I would. I step on that field every day, and I dream about, you know, those days where I was playing, and that was the fun part. I didn't realize how hard this part was. I love coaching. That's the closest I've come to getting that same feeling.
Yeah.
That there's nothing that will ever take away that joy and that feeling of excitement when you step out on the field and those people are in the stands and you smell the grills going and the bands going and the music and things like that. That's what I tell our kids. You know, our man, don't waste this time.
Yeah.
Because it's special, it's precious to you, and you're going to look back and you're going to say, man, I just want one more play. Now, one more play is about all I can play at this point in my life. I'm so old now, I wouldn't last very long. But, you know, I'd like to get at least a series in at some point.
Mm-hmm. So you're also coaching track at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know about your success as a track and field coach. I want everyone to know he was a 6-time Region Coach of the Year and the 2010 Georgia State Coach of the Year. Wow, that's amazing.
Track is a passion too that I really love, as we talked about earlier in the interview, because it's a pure sport, kind of like wrestling.
Yeah.
And the fact that when you line up against somebody in a race, you're either going to win or you're going to lose, and there's nothing you can do about it. Football, basketball, sometimes we can take breaks and guys can hide. You know, you can take a play off here and there. But when you're in a race or you're in a competitive event in track, and it's just you and 6 other people, there's not a lot of hiding, and that's what makes it special to me. Yeah. It's pure. And it's just like wrestling. You get on a mat with somebody, and you're either going to win or they're going to beat you. And there's nothing else you can do, and nobody in the stands can say, well, Coach didn't do this or Coach didn't do that, because it's just you and that person. And it builds a lot of character. I think it does. I think track's a very good character builder.
All right. How have you produced such consistent results in track?
Developing relationships with the kids, because it's not easy. I said it before. Our practices are most teams' punishments. So you really have to motivate. You really have to motivate, give them incentives, and be positive with them. It's not always easy, and so you're always trying to constantly think outside. What can I do to motivate these guys to run the 400 effectively?
Yeah.
And you got to do a lot of change-ups. You got to make your workouts different. You got to give them breaks. You got to rest them. You got to give them, you know, ice cream every now and then, and chocolate milk and things like that. And just so it's not such a grind every single day. But the relationships are the most important. Yeah. Develop a relationship with them. They know that you love them. They'll produce for you.
Yeah. Are there any similarities between coaching track and coaching football?
Sure. Again, the mind game that you have to use. Sometimes you got to be a psychologist in this building. In this business, and you've got to convince them that it's going to hurt, but it's okay. And a lot of times I say, you hate me now, you'll love me later, and they do. And that's true. They always come back and say, Coach, I'm glad that you pushed me through what you pushed me through. there is a lot of similarities in all coaching.
Yeah. Who has influenced you the most in your coaching career?
In my coaching career, I think my biggest influence was Coach Sonny Smart at Raven. He and Billy Henderson at Clark Central, and then my first official varsity football job back in '96 or '95, I can't remember, was Sonny Smart at Raven. He took me as a 22-year-old kid and kind of took me in, and he was late in his career, kind of like I am now, and he took me in and made me. I felt like his son. You know, my dad was living here, and my mom and I was 2 hours away, and he didn't necessarily teach me so much about football as he did about. I cut grass and I painted fields, and I worked a lot of hours on things besides football. And he coached me into being uncomfortable so that I could be successful. And I would say that he has probably been the biggest influence on my life and my coaching career. As far on my coaching career, not my life. My father, obviously, and my two grandfathers, biggest influences on my life. But he's a special guy. Obviously, his son has done a pretty good job in the SEC and at Georgia and Alabama. But I think Kirby learned a lot from his father also.
When Coach Cheatham's not on the football field, you might find him out west hanging on for dear life. On one occasion, it ruined Thanksgiving dinner. Check this out. You're in for a real treat. All right, let's change gears a little.
Okay.
You have an interesting hobby. Tell me about mountain climbing.
I got into it when my wife and I were married. Catherine, before we were married, she taught a year of school. She came out of college, taught a year of school. She just felt like, I got to do something. I don't feel. So she went to Yosemite, California, to the Yosemite National Park in California, and she lived there for about a year, and she worked there. And she started climbing, and she's the actual climber. I'm just kind of a mule, as far as it goes. But so we got married, and she introduced me to the West. And to Colorado and to California and to Montana and things like that. And we began to take trips out there. And so as we did that, I started to introduce others, like my brother and some friends of mine. And we started to climb 14ers, which are 14,000-foot peaks that are in the West. And it became kind of a deal where we were going to try to climb all 52 14,000 peaks in Colorado, and we're about at number 11 right now. We've got a lot to go, and it's hard to fit it all in with coaching too. Plus, you leave the altitude here and you go to 14,000 feet. There's a big difference. It's a challenge. It's one of those things you challenge yourself, where you feel like you're not going to make it and you can't breathe and your heart's about to bust, but you just keep pushing yourself through it, and then when you get to the top, you're on top of the world. And it's an amazing accomplishment, but it's definitely a hobby. It's a passion, and going back this summer, as soon as we leave for the Dead Week, we're driving straight to Yosemite, and we'll jump on some of those cliffs and some of those mountains up there.
Phew. What's the highest mountain you've ever climbed?
Mount Elbert in Colorado, which is the second highest peak in the lower 48, 14,370 feet. Me and my brother did that. And it was not necessarily a technical climb. There was a lot of lead up where we spent a day that we were hiking in with our gear, and then we got to above tree line at about 12,000 feet, and then you've got another 2,000-foot push where there are a lot of rocks and things like that, where you've got to kind of scramble over and work the terrain and pick your points. It's kind of like a map, the way that you get up. And we made it up top, and it was pretty special. That was my brother's first one.
Oh, really?
And he had never experienced it. And that's hooked him. And I'd done a couple before, and but for us being together and doing that together was pretty special. A lot of tears at the top because it hurt so bad to get there, but to finally get it done.
Yeah. Have you ever had any near-death experiences while climbing?
Yeah, a lot. I got struck by lightning on Greenhorn Mountain.
Oh, God.
It was right at 13,700 feet, and their storm came in, and my altitude watch, my GPS was a big silver, and storm came in and hit me in the arm, and I hit the ground, and still got my burns and stuff from it. But that was pretty close. My wife and I got lost in Colorado. We didn't really get lost. She'll say I got lost, but I'll say I did it. And we ended up about 20 miles getting out from where we started off the eastern side because a snow front came in, and we had to walk out. Got out about 2 o'clock that night and found a house and got to it. But you'll have to have my wife tell you about that story. I felt in control the entire time. She didn't feel the same about it. But it was on Thanksgiving Day too. So
Oh, gosh.
yeah. Our kids were back at home, and she felt like she wasn't ever going to see them again. But I felt pretty confident we would. But she didn't like me too much that Thanksgiving.
She'll remember that one.
But yeah, there's been several times where Mount Adams was one where we were up on the top, and it got really slick and wet, and we had to turn around and come back, and we were on our backs. I remember it. I really remember it because we were on our backs trying to slide down and not fall, and it ripped my back pockets out, and I happened to have my wallet and stuff in my back pocket, which is a no-no. And so I watched my license and my Social Security card and everything just fall to the ground, below me, and to never be found again, and things like that. But it's all worth the risk.
Yeah. All right, Coach, we've reached the segment I like to call Fast Break.
All right.
I'm going to give you 2 choices, and you're going to tell me which one you prefer.
Okay.
Chest bump or high five?
Chest bump.
Yeah. IHOP or Waffle House?
Waffle House.
Me too. Early bird or night owl?
I don't sleep much,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of both. I'm probably more of a night owl, but I jump up pretty quick. Yeah.
Iced tea or Coke?
No doubt, Diet Coke keeps me going.
Yeah. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Yeah. Friday Night Lights or college game day?
Friday Night Lights.
Oh, yeah. Phone call or text?
Neither. Yeah, my phone goes off on both 24/7.
Yeah.
So I wish that sometimes I could put that thing down, but I would prefer to talk face to face.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that, but no, texting, short text and things like that.
Yeah.
But parent issues and stuff like that, I would rather talk face to face.
Yeah. Facebook or Twitter?
Twitter's the way to go as far as recruiting and getting stuff out there quick and video, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Singing or dancing?
Singing, definitely, no doubt. And it's not very good, but I enjoy it.
Lake or ocean?
Gosh, ocean to me, more adventure, bigger waves.
Yeah. Congratulations, Coach. You've ran the fast break.
Hadn't done that in a while.
All right. What advice would you give to an aspiring athlete?
I think that there's a lot of times there's an illusion of choice in life that you can do what you want to and be great, but really being successful and being what you want to be, there's really not a choice there.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice, and you have to be willing to hurt. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to do the little things that nobody else does, mm-hmm. and do it a lot. There's no you got to put the phone down. You got to put the games down. You've got to work your trade, which we tell our kids. You've got to work at it. You got to have a sick work ethic at all times. Every day is a day that you can attack, that you can get better. Because in reality, there's a continuum, and on one side you have the greatness, and then on the other side you have failure. And everybody falls on that continuum. Mm-hmm. And you're either working towards being successful, or you're actually slipping towards the other way. You can't sit still. because inevitably life tells you that you're going to slide down the continuum. You've got to work every single day to be successful. It's got to be part of your life. It can't be video games, and it can't be texting, and it can't be Snapchat and those type of stuff. You actually got to hurt a little bit.
Yeah. When your career is over, how do you want your players to remember you?
That I loved them.
Yeah.
That I was for them. That they were like my own. I treated them like my own. The way I want my child to be taught and coached is the way I coach them. The biggest thing is that my relationship with them will be remembered forever. And as long as I live and as long as they live, I want them to know that I love them. I truly do.
I'm sure that's how they will remember you.
I hope so.
Well, Coach, it's been great having you here.
It's been great being here.
I want to leave you with the final word.
Okay.
What do you have to say to Rebel Nation?
Oh, Rebel Nation, things are looking good. So good to be home. We ask for your continued support and the love in the community that you've given us, and we're going to reciprocate that. Hopefully we get a lot of wins, but our kids from every program, whether it be basketball, football, track and field, tennis, golf, whatever it is, they're working extremely hard. Culture is changing, and we need your support in the stands and everywhere that you can possibly be. But thank you. We're excited, and it's good to be home. It's a great day to be a Rebel.
That was amazing, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, Rebel Nation, that was Chad Cheatham telling you how it is. I think our football program is in pretty good hands. We got us a great coach, but more importantly, a great guy. See you next time on Small Town Izzy with Big Time Sports.